Hey, hello everyone, and welcome. I'm Paul Soul. For those that don't know me, and that's probably most of you, I spent 3 decades in the Navy, and 2 years ago, in fact, 2 years ago this month, got a chance, really a blessing of a lifetime, to be part of the Florida High Tech Corridor. And one of the neat things that I get to do is highlight the legacy of the corridor and invite the guests we have today, folks that are doing some really neat things in technology. They're bridging gaps between technologies, and it's exciting. It's really showing the potential of the region here. So I have two guests this time. So let me introduce Adrian Lannon and Austin Pinzon. Adrian is co-founder and CEO. Austin is co-founder and COO of A Square. A Squared, is it Technologies? Is that right? A Squared Games and Simulation. So let's talk. Let me ask about that right off the bat. Even before you talk about yourselves and introduce yourselves, where did the name A Square come from? Because that's got me curious.
Yeah, so the name A Square comes from a really cool logo that Austin put together when we were just hanging out one day. And you can take a quick guess, but my name's Austin, or my name's Adrian, and his name's Austin. So you put us both together, we're A Square.
Awesome. Okay, so let me do this. Let me let you guys, each of you, and Adrian, we'll start with you. Just introduce yourself to the crowd, and then I'll dig right in with some questions on background and things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as Paul introduced, my name's Adrian Lannon. I'm the co-founder and CEO of A Square Games and Simulation. I have a particular background with production and business, and particularly as a systems and network programmer. Absolutely.
And Austin, how about you?
Sure. Sure, yeah. Austin Pinzon here. As Adrian said, you know, A Square kind of came out of us being, two people, but since it's changed to now be Square with, our entire company encompassing. My background is more in visual effects, technical art, animation, rigging, and whatnot, shaders, materials. But over the years, I've kind of become more in the programming side. So I kind of utilize a bit of my art history and a bit of my technology experience to kind of bridge those gaps together.
Yeah, fantastic. So, and I get a chance, gosh, I've met Austin a couple of times. Adrian, I'm not sure if we've ever crossed paths. So thanks for doing this so I can get to know you both. Austin, I think we met out at Synapse Summit a little bit. Then I remember seeing you over at Tech Grove a couple of times. And in fact, the latest one was Team Orlando's board of directors meeting, where I think you were on virtually as well to talk about Armed Forces Jam, and we'll get to that here in a second. So I'm always curious, and one of the things I've learned about the unique folks that found businesses that really build. So if each of you would kind of tell your story a little bit about how you got to where you are. I know, Adrian, on your website, and I'll just bring this out because it's public. It says your tech startup lifestyle followed your failed junior high basketball career. So maybe if you can weave that in, tell us a little about how you got to where you are today.
No, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, that's absolutely public. I encourage everyone to go take a look at it. It's 100% true. As much as I love sports as a younger child, I'm a bit on the short side. And unfortunately, following that junior high basketball career, I decided that maybe sports wasn't the path to go. And that's when I started getting into technology and, started fiddling around with programming as I got into high school. And that's what led me here. So we can all thank that to my junior high basketball coach.
Yeah, awesome. And now, so Austin, how about maybe you have as colorful a background on your lead up to where you are today?
I don't think he does.
Oh yeah, no, my background is kind of insane. I mean, I've always enjoyed video games. Played them, when I was like 2 years old. My mom bought me the Super Nintendo, and from there, like everything just, kind of snowballed into where I am now. I originally started actually as a tattoo artist. I was really interested in doing art and tattooing, and I kind of got more into the digital media side of things with Photoshop and Illustrator, making these custom works for people, and that kind of pushed me more towards the animation side. And then eventually, I was going to get a degree just for the sake of getting a degree. And I already had a background in web design and marketing, and I've worked on commercials and a number of other things through marketing firms. And I discovered that UCF had a game program that was the prerequisites were very similar to the web design program. So I was like, all right, well, sure, let's try that. I like games. I like making games. I think it'd be really cool. I like animation and art and stuff. And I kind of met Adrian there while we were both at UCF through GDK, and just kind of went from there.
So that connection now I'm gonna dive in on between you two, because I think, at least in my mind, as a non-entrepreneur, Navy, very structured kind of a guy, to me it takes a giant leap of faith to go from noticing, hey, we got some similar interests, to founding a company and actually go. I think the audience that we get here often wonders, like, what was that first step? What made you pick Central Florida? And what were those sort of aha moments in that first setup of, yep, we're going to dive in and create our company?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So to kind of follow up on my history there, after my high school years, I was getting into programming, and when I moved up to UCF, very similar. I actually came to UCF to learn how to do art. I wanted to be, a gamer. I wanted to make video games, so I really got into the art side. And once I actually went to UCF, they have the games undergraduate program. I was very attracted to that. So when I transferred over from my community college up to the UCF program, I went to a game jam, and we can kind of get into this. And that's when I, started my path as a programmer once again. But upon transferring to UCF, I heard about this really cool group called Game Dev Nights. And one of our first interactions I had with Austin is as a member of Game Dev Nights. And he had come in one day, and I think it was like a workshop when we first initially met, but we just, talked very briefly about the program and like what we were doing. And things kind of built from there. I think the first aha moment where Austin and I really connected as developers, and people with passion in the industry and in the space is, and I think it would be that first GDC we went to. We actually really got some time to spend a couple days and hang out and talk about, hey, here are the things like I'm at UCF for, and these are things I'm kind of looking to do. From there, our history in the program kind of built. Uh, I don't know how much listeners might know about the UCF program, but there's a senior capstone project that goes on for about a year, and it has to do with basically running your own little studio. Um, so I was a producer. I have a lot to do with production and team management, the schedulers. I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm going to run to be a producer for one of these capstone projects. And Austin, with his skill set, very complementary, I think is what you're going to find when it comes to, comparing and contrasting me and Austin. I'm a very technical background, very production, very schedules. And Austin's very, creative. He's got all these art skills. He's actually got all the skills and made a very good creative director. So we teamed up, and for that entire year, for both our capstone projects, we worked together and led a team. So even just coming out of college, we kind of had this experience of working and running a team together. And it wasn't until, professionally, we had, went straight out into the industry. We actually got a job at the same place, very, very great company, very awesome guys. And, just after a while, we've been doing our thing for so long, we decided, yeah, at this point, like, let's give this a shot ourselves. Like, what it would be like to be in that seat, to run a business and to be a tech studio.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, because you mentioned the idea of a game jam. And
Sure.
for those that don't understand it, and I'll bring out my own first experience was with Space Jam last September, where I got a chance to be a judge. I got tapped on the shoulder. I think Kunal said, "Hey, do you want to be a judge?" And I go, "I don't even know what that means, but okay." And what was neat about that 2-day period was to watch this group of I'll call them kids. I'm old. This group of amazing creatives that come together, take some space challenges from General Stephen Purdy from the Space Coast, and say, okay, solve it. And then to eat pizza and watch and everything else. But tell me, yeah, and now what I'm learning is there are all kinds of game jams out there. So tell me a little bit about how that game jam philosophy works in your world, and kind of the point of it, and how you see that even developing into the future.
Yeah, no. So I will say that game jams pretty much played a very important part of, I would say our early development as developers and also our relationship because Austin and I, very early on in the ECF program, we just kept running into each other at these events. But the Game Jam, just quite simply, is like you said, it's a 48-hour period where teams get together for different disciplines. You have your programmers, your artists, your designers, your producers, sound developers, whatever. Everyone who can be part of the process is there, and you guys mix and match, and you pick a theme, and you pick a project, and maybe you formulate like a little gimmick or a proof of concept that you want to do, and you basically just make a game in the course of 48 hours. And that was always a fun part of my school years and my highlight, and continuing into our lifespan here as a company. We continue as a company to participate in these game jams. And for me, early on, I would say there's two really good ways to tackle it. One is like an amateur or someone who's new to the industry, or someone who's a hobbyist, and another is a more seasoned veteran, as someone with some experience. And either or, you can get something out of a game jam. Very early on, my participation in the game jams was fermented around this idea of I wanted to learn a new concept. I wanted a 48-hour brick wall to basically learn a new skill or a new tool and get that underneath my belt and make me a better developer coming out of it. Whether or not it was a particularly impressive project wasn't necessarily my goal early on. It's also a good opportunity as a newbie to network, meet other talented individuals. Very passionate, I think, is very key to find all the tryhards out there spending their weekends building games for those people to connect with one another. Very, very useful. And again, on the more experienced side, now that I'm doing this as a company and I've been to many, many years of game jams, I think my outlook has kind of evolved to I want to use this as a proof of concept for a mechanic. I want to try out a new mechanic. I want to proof of concept this thing that I want to integrate into a much larger project later on.
So Austin, I'm gonna shift to you specifically about Armed Forces Jam, because I got a chance to meet you there, and I got a chance to look at
people's conception of game design or game development, even people that go into the program who want to be game developers, is they imagine making games as simple as playing games. When you talk about games, they think of Fortnite and emote dances and whatnot, but there's a lot of innovative tech coming out of gaming, as well, just gaming technologies in general. But a lot of the innovation actually comes from the simulation side and comes from the military side. A lot of these advances in technology and hardware comes from those industries utilizing gaming tech and real-time engines, and that then translates to cooler, bigger, better things we can do on the gaming side, and vice versa. There's a lot of techniques and challenges that the gaming side has to conquer that then comes more towards the simulation side. As far as the Armed Forces Jam, this was a really good opportunity to partner, um, you know, two industries together that don't, commonly communicate. We have the gaming industry using real-time engines, optimized assets, running things that may, are supposed to be running performantly on high-end hardware and low-end hardware. And then we have the simulation side, which, traditionally a lot of their methods can be a little bit different. They may not be working in agile. They may be using old waterfall methods. They're more prioritizing these higher end hardware, this higher end hardware target to run these massive simulations. But there could be a combination of both, right? We can visualize data in real time with real visualization techniques that aren't really common when you build your own engines over these old like 20-year code bases. So this was an opportunity to showcase these kind of dichotomous skill sets of here's gaming real-time technology. We're making something in 48 hours. It's fast, it's loose, it's rapid prototyping, and then we're taking problem statements from the military. We need some kind of machine learning for visual recognition. We need haptics technology. We need VR XR technology. We need collaborative training spaces. Metaverse is a really big topic. So we're taking all of these problem statements and we're addressing them through this fast-paced, rapid development process that we have on the gaming technology side. So Armed Forces was literally built around that concept. Similar, you mentioned the Mega Health Jam. earlier, Mega Health Jam is built around the same kind of concept. As instead of military professionals, we're connecting healthcare professionals in the healthcare industry and their technologies to the talent and development out here in Orlando.
Yeah, so, and that which is just awesome, because I've watched it, and I can one of the first having been in the military for 33 years, our language is so completely different than yours, and so just pulling people together and having a bit of a learning between the two groups, I think is really, really exciting. So what I hear from you a lot is the teaming aspect. I mean, we have these amazing little sort of nuclei of set creative village. You've got this gaming group that's there as well. So there's this constant kind of collaboration that I think makes Orlando and this area and the corridor kind of special. Can you describe in your own um, sort of lessons learned as you've built your company, how what you see as the future of teaming and who you might want to team with and what that might mean? And then a secondary question would be, and Austin, you talked about metaverse. So one of the big things from Orlando and OEP is Meta Center is this: we have these components of the metaverse, and you all seem like you're way above me on expertise of what that means. But I'm interested in how you see your business in that world. So I'll throw it over to either one who wants to step in. There's a lot of trail on questions there, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I can kind of talk a bit about the first part, Austin, if you want to break into the second bit about the metaverse. But
Sure.
talking about community and working with other companies here, I can kind of talk to you a bit about one of those gaming groups that you were talking about, which we call Indienomicon in the Orlando game space. So these are both communities. A Square right now, we are currently members of both the Orlando game space. So it's basically a collab working space for a number of different companies in the Orlando's tech community and some adjacent companies. So not only do we have simulation and VR companies, mobile companies here at the Orlando game space, but we also have marketing firms and internship and recruitment firms and very adjacent complementary companies. And one of our usual talking points in regards to this is the collaboration benefits everyone. There's a lot of work, a lot of competition, and the companies within the game space working together to help complement each other to go after bigger contracts. As we used to be maybe as a two-person company, when Austin and I first started, we wouldn't have the resources or the capacity to maybe tackle some of these larger projects. And that's when it becomes beneficial to be a member of a space in a very unique space like the Orlando game space. Now we can partner with other smaller indie teams to go after larger contracts and better contracts, which in result help bring in resources for us to scale up ourselves to the point where now A Square is a 12 developer company full stack.
Yeah, awesome, Austin. Your thoughts?
No, absolutely. The big thing, especially with this tackling of the metaverse, is there's a lot of emerging tech coming out. There's a lot of peripherals and hardware, and everybody has their own kind of idea of how they want to implement these features, and not everyone can be an expert on everything. It's very difficult. So the collaboration aspect, to kind of trail off on Adrian's topic, is very important because especially as a smaller studio, if there's something very specific that somebody doesn't know, like we can always reach out to our 3 degrees to kind of network with people who maybe have that experience in that space. And metaverse is no different. Everyone has their own impression of what the metaverse is. They have their own definition of it, and I think that makes it very difficult to create kind of a singular pipeline for how to build out a metaverse or to build to a metaverse. Some people are building for hardware, some people are building for digital pixel streaming, and they want to be able to use it on their phones or in AR or in VR or maybe no type of XR. It's a very complex space to be in. With the following the announcement of Orlando being that meta center, right, for the metaverse to kind of grow here, I think it's accurate. I don't think it's necessarily anything new as much as it
Mm,
is putting a nice title on something that's already kind of been developed out here. A lot of
yeah.
companies out here are working on metaverses already. I mean, we are one of them, and a couple of our partner companies that we're affiliated with, they're also working on their own metaverses. It's a very hot topic right now, and everybody's kind of trying to address this. So that aspect of collaboration is kind of important in the metaverse as well. The whole point of the metaverse is collaboration, is to bring people together by digitally facilitating these necessities.
One of the as I hear you talk about teaming, and as you mentioned full stack, Adrian, on the talent for A Square. Talk to me a little bit about the talent piece. How hard is it to get? What are your thoughts for kind of the future of Florida as at least we hear about people coming this way? And
Hmm.
and how could the corridor help with regard to talent?
Yeah,
And I'll
no,
I'll throw it
absolutely.
open to either of you.
No, absolutely. So A Square, we were very fortunate during those years where Austin and I were running our days in college and moving on very shortly afterwards. We developed a lot of relationships with a lot of very extraordinarily talented people who had a very similar drive for excellence that we did. So coming into A Square and building that company, immediately we knew who our first 5 people were going to be, and we're happy to have built the current team around this talent. Moving forward, A Square has always been from, and this kind of comes from our roots at GDK, but working with the local universities, including UCF and Full Sail and Orlando Technical College, with our own internal internship program. So A Square, we built this internship program that's designed around a lot of the things that we wanted when we were interns in the game space at the UCF. I'm like, hey, where are these opportunities? Where can I go to learn? Where can I learn industry standards? Where can I learn best practices? In A Square, we've kind of provided our own system around that that achieves just that. So we've actually been working uh, tirelessly on training our people internally with those industry standards and those conventions. Like Austin said, like we always had a certain mindset of how we wanted to do things very early on, and we kind of built this into an official A Square's best practices, A Square conventions, and that's what we teach in the program, and that's how we've been facilitating.
Yeah. No, that's
And
that's awesome.
to follow
Awesome.
on
Go ahead,
that,
Austin.
Yeah.
oh sorry, to follow on that, I mean, we mentioned game jams before, and game jams are absolutely perfect events for showcasing talent. If you have a skill set that you really want to kind of put out there, you can go to events and you can utilize that skill set. When we participate in game jams, we're not just there to flex and be like, oh, A Square, we're here at game jams. It's also, we look for talent there. We look for teams that do really good work, and whether they're looking to join a company or if they're looking to start their own company. Those are the kind of things that we look for. People who are they're participating locally, they're working on emerging tech, they are exhibiting good comprehension of those talents, and uh, those events are absolutely like perfect networking opportunities to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And to even build one more piece on top of that is to talk a bit more of those roots of GDK is like I just described, we met a lot of talent and we built this company around a lot of talent. We're mostly a UCF alumni company. And as such, we wanted to kind of keep that relationship very strong. And now we're working with the Game Dev Nights now to help facilitate something we used to call the pipeline between education and the industry, right? Keep that network open, keep those skills and those communications going. So we've been even working with UCF and the Game Dev Nights to make sure that their professional development clubs and their students in general, members of the program, understand like, hey, this is an entire industry that exists that's in your backyard. Here are the skill sets you need. Here are the people you need to talk to, and keep that going. A Square just being one of them.
Yeah, I think that's hugely, and again, I'm the new guy on the block, but I've noticed that as a common theme, hugely important, because what you two are doing, you're giving back, right? And that's a common I've seen that in the entrepreneurial spirit of these companies is they want to be able to give back. Before we close here, is there a question I didn't ask that you wish I would have, or things that you want to, any thought that you want to share before we close this one out? And thank you again for taking the time this morning.
The one thing that I would bring up is, as far as we've discussed these game jams and these events. We've discussed how some of them, though, specifically the ones that a lot of the ones that Innomicon are doing right now, we're trying to make a lot of our schedule built around having a couple jams that are for entertainment purposes, and a couple jams that are very industry related. As far as like how would these industries be able to participate in this, that connection is also very important. So through things like what we're doing right now, this discussion, as well as this local promotion of these events. If industry professionals want to participate in jams like this, whether it's through Innomicon or just someone over in California is like, hey, I want to do a thing like this, it's not as hard as it seems. With the Orlando space, if you are an industry professional and you're interested in participating in this, you can reach out to Innomicon. If you're a company that's outside of Central Florida, you could still reach out to Innomicon. We're trying to help other locations and sites run similar events. We've been talking to Washington. We have South Florida. We have a couple different places that are really looking to emulate the stuff that we're doing here in Orlando, and I think that's very important. It's not just growing the talent locally, but growing it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But if you are an industry professional and you want to participate in something like this, like reach out to Innomicon, reach out to us, and we can show you what it is that we're trying to do, and how you can be a part of that. And a lot of that centralizes around those problem statements. So as an industry, if you have an issue and you need to address it, let us know. Let people know. You may not realize that there is technology that you require that someone may already be working on, or problems that you have that someone may have already addressed. So that collaboration and that communication is very important to addressing these major growing issues.
And Austin did a really good job there of kind of pitching the Innomicon mission. So I'm going to kind of do the same real quickly in hopes that it goes to some inspired individuals for the Orlando game space side. But yeah, it's about giving back to community, and the Orlando game space is a good place for startups like ourselves to kind of come and grow and get mentorship and work with other individuals and kind of learn the ropes, an incubator of sorts. So hopefully people are aware that the Orlando game space, if they don't already, is a thing, and that we are currently looking for new members.
So with that, everybody who's hey, thanks for dialing in to podcast number 5. Austin and Adrian, thank you very much. This was a last minute squeeze. Hey, can we do this? And the good news is, with all its warts, we have a great production staff who's going to come up with something amazing. So thanks for being part of Tech's Potential, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Thanks, gentlemen, very much.